Hey everybody, welcome back to the Behaviour Revolution Scriptures. My name's Mark. This is a new translation I'm doing for the bride. It's completely refreshing and amazing, the journey I've been on in it, and I hope you're enjoying it too. Today we're talking about the 12 spies that went to explore out the land of Canaan. They are right on the doorstep of the promised land, about to go in. They're so close. If you look at the map, they've gone right up from the Gulf of Aqaba. They come right up there, and they're so close to the land of Canaan they could almost touch it. And so this is what Yahusha says to Musha. If you want to send some men to suss out the land of Canaan and explore the land I'm giving Israel, then send one leader from each of the 12 tribes. This wasn't a command. This wasn't a strict go and do this. This was if it would make everybody feel better and reassure the nation, and you want to, send 12 men out from each of the 12 tribes, suss out the land of Canaan. So these men, even gave them the men to take. And that's all the men there. There's one tribe, one man from each tribe, I should say. So all those men there, you can look at those. And in the picture there, this was not a secret spy mission, but just a casual checking out the land to reassure Israel. Because, I mean, there's a lot of men, if it was a secret spy mission, a lot of men going. Later on, we'll see the real spying for military invasion purposes. And only 2 or 3 men were sent out, not a whole group like a wine tasting tour. So we see that this was just a laid back, we're going over there to see what the land is like, see what the vegetation is like, and it wasn't to spy out, secret spying and all this espionage. No. And Musha changed Yahusha. You'll notice that we didn't go through this list of names, but you'll notice that Caleb is in there and Yahusha is in there. Yahusha is Joshua, Musha's right-hand man. So those 2 men are in this group of 12. But before they go, Musha changed Yahusha, the son of Nun's name, to Yahusha. So he changed his name from Yahusha to Yahusha. Yahusha means deliverance, and he tacked a Yah in there, the father's name. Yahusha, meaning Yahuwah is deliverance. And he actually, as we know, shares the same name as our Messiah, Yahusha. So in these Behaviour Revolution translations, Yahusha, the man, is written, Yahusha, the right-hand man of Musha, I should say, he is written in small caps, and Yahusha, the creator, is written in capitals, just to make things more confusing, yeah? So Musha gave these 12 men their marching orders. Go north through the hill country and see what the land is like, and find out whether the people living there are a serious threat, strong or weak, and how many. Are they upright and clean, or wretched and evil? Also, see what kind of land they live in. Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? Is the soil fertile, or hard and rocky? Are there many trees and forests? Bring us back some samples of the crops too, as it just happened to be the season for harvesting ripe grapes. There should be a closed bracket there. So they went up and explored the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rechab, near the entrance of Hamath. And going north, they arrived at Hebron, where Akimah, Sheshai, and Talmai, all descendants of Anak, lived. The ancient town of Hebron was founded 7 years before the Egyptian city of Solon, so it's pretty old. And when they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, so large that it took 2 of them to carry it on a pole between them. Do you really think that was literal? Have you ever seen a bunch of grapes so large it takes 2 grown men to carry it on a pole? No, this was a metaphor, guys, expressing how incredibly fertile the land was. Just jump down the bottom there to that little turquoise bit there. It's like saying, man, the grapefruits in Africa are the size of elephants. Obviously, you're not going to take that statement literally. It's like an over-exaggeration. That's what's being expressed here. Oh, bloody big grapes, mate. Big grapes. That's the whole point you take from that. The land was fertile, the fruits and the grapes and all the lavish, flowing with milk and honey. That's a metaphor too. There wasn't any milk or honey there. It's a metaphor. Hebrew idioms. So they also brought back samples of the pomegranates and figs. That place was later called the Valley of Eshcol, which means cluster, because of the huge cluster of grapes the Israelites spies cut there. Remember, they named places after their experience there, and there are all these wonderful, prolific, massive, abundance of grapes. So they called the place Eshcol, which means cluster. And that whole paragraph there about the directions in which they took, there's a bit of a map down here you can look at. A lot of the maps I looked up, I had to alter because most of the Christian maps believe that, of course, Mount Sinai was in here. So, of course, they went up here, all around here, which is not true because they came up down here, across the Gulf of Aqaba down here, and then up here, up here. And then they're in, this whole story is taking place around about here. Wilderness of Paran, here, see here? And then Kadesh is around about there. Approximately 800 kilometre round trip. So yeah, it took them about 40 odd days to do it. Around here. The Valley of Eshcol is this whole area here. It's like a big basin. It drops down in there. So it's this whole idea of the land of Canaan. This was all the land of Canaan here. It's like saying we went to the Middle East. Well, the Middle East is a place, but it's not really specific, is it? The whole area is known as the Middle East. Well, this whole land here was known as Canaan, and within Canaan you had all these different divisions: Beersheba, Hebron, Jerusalem, Jericho, all these places. And I think I put it in when it talks about all the enemies, their enemies. There it is. It's not very clear, but this is the same map. I put it on its side so it looks the same as the top one up here. All these places here, Beersheba, Hebron, Jerusalem, that's here, along here. And that's just a little bit of a vague breakup of where all the enemy nations were. So this is all the land of Canaan, but you got your Philistine, the Hittites, the Amalekites, Moabites, Amorites. This is the Canaanites. This is all where their tribes, hung out. They had fortified cities, so it was really jam-packed full of people. Remember, Hebron was where Yahusha, remember we talked about they travel up to Hebron when they were scouting out the land a couple of minutes ago? Hebron, up there in the map, you can see it. Remember, Hebron was where Yahusha spoke to Abraham and told him his descendants would inherit the land of Canaan. And it was pretty much the only place in Canaan where Abraham and the other patriarchs settled down for any reasonable length of time. In fact, before Jerusalem was established as Israel's capital, Hebron was considered to be the unnamed capital of the Promised Land and a very sacred place for the Israelites, because that's where Hebron, under the terebinth trees of Mamre, where Abraham bought the land and buried Sarah, and he was buried there. I think Yitzhak was, and also Jacob. When they were in Egypt, they took Jacob back to be buried there as well. So, very special place. Because of course this is primitive mindset, where people died was important because of the whole spiritual passing on down the line, the afterlife, all that sort of stuff. It was still very primitive in their thinking. So, the spies, the scouts I should say, they weren't spies, scouting it out. Reconnoitering group, the reconnoitation group, they were in the land. So after exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moshe and Aaron at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran, reporting to the whole community what they'd seen and showed them the fruit that they'd taken from the land. This is mainly the elders and leaders of it's not 3 million odd people here that they're talking to, it's the leaders. So, reporting to the whole community what they'd seen and showed them the fruit they'd taken from the land. And this was their report to Moshe. We entered the land where you sent us. So even their attitude up front, we entered that where you sent us. Like, this is what we had to do. The land you sent us, and they're not excited, are they? We entered the land where you sent us, and it's completely bountiful and lush, and a land flowing with milk and honey. Look here, check out this fruit we picked there. However, so they're bringing the positives first, so they can take a big deuce and drop a turd on everybody. Look here, check out this fruit we picked. However, the people living there are fierce, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw some giants there too, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live further up north. The Kittites, Jebusites, and the Amorites live in the mountains. And the Canaanites live along the coast of the sea and along the Jordan Valley. So after hearing about the giants and the fortified walls and all this sort of stuff, there was a wave of mixed emotions from the people hearing this. But Caleb tried to quiet them down as they stood before Musha. Let's go immediately and take the land. He's gung-ho, positive, excited. Let's go gung-ho. Let's go immediately and take the land, he interrupted. We can definitely overcome them and conquer it, no worries. But the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't win against them. They're much stronger than us. It's hopeless. So they spread evil rumors about the land, saying to the people of Israel, the land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw there were huge. We even saw Nephilim giants too, the descendants of Anak. It was terrifying because next to them, we felt like tiny grasshoppers. And that's what they thought too. We can't do it. This was a waste of time. So they're negative. When reading these parts of scripture dealing with the takeover of Canaan, we often have a tendency to look down on the non-Israelite races inhabiting the region as being primitive and uncivilized. We often think that when we look at maps, oh, there's nothing there. They're uncivilized and they're primitive. But nothing could be further from the truth. The Kittites were actually a very advanced civilization whose center would now be modern-day Turkey. The Jebusites were actually the original builders of Jerusalem, modern-day Israel's capital. And Abraham's original tribe sprang from the Amorites, who were considered a very aggressive people, always seeking to dominate the region, and as a result didn't get along very well with their neighbours. So as you can see, it wouldn't make much sense to use the term Canaanite to refer to one people group per se. For the land of Canaan was actually a conglomerate of many different people groups well entrenched in the promised land who could all trace their ancestry back to Noach's grandson Canaan. The scouts' report of what they saw was not exaggerated. The scouts' report of what they saw was not exaggerated. So even though they were having drama and negative and having a pity party, they weren't really exaggerating. The city was indeed inhabited by many strong people groups, and the cities were indeed very well fortified. Their assessment was objectively accurate, and the truth of what was being reported was causing the community of Israel to start shaking in their boots. By the way, the word community here is not referring to all citizens of Israel, just the senior elders of Israel. That's a bit of a map of Israel today, just to give you a bit of perspective in the land of Canaan, what you would consider Canaan now, all that land there. And that's Egypt, and they travelled down here, and that's the tip of the Gulf of Aqaba there. So they're camping around about here right now. So as you can see, because I always thought Canaan was just up on the coast here. No, it's all the way down here as well. So you can see they're pretty much on the border. That's why I said before that literally they can almost touch the promised land. They're on the border here. The people of Israel are now standing near the border of the very land Yahusha had promised to them, and only moments away from fulfilling the incredible promise first given to Abraham 400, 500, 600 years before this whole promise was laid out. And they are moments away from being able to go in there and do it. The fulfillment, the bringing the bride into the marriage home, delivered her, washed her, gave her his marriage ketubah, signed it, lifted it up. They had to be obedient. Yes, we will do it, and they're about to go into the marriage home, consummated. And as we've heard in later articles, Yahusha wanted to connect with them all through a portal. And who knows, if they'd been obedient, maybe Yahusha may have come earlier, maybe deliverance would have happened a different way. Who knows? But as we know, what happened? They're moments away from going in, and what happened? 10 of the scouts decided not to trust Yahusha. There were 12 scouts, 10 of them decided not to trust Yahusha. Truth be told, everything these men had reported was objective and accurate. However, since they lacked belief and trust, they came to a negative conclusion that would have disastrous consequences for all of Israel. This is interesting because the other 2 scouts who trusted Yahusha and wanted to go boldly forth and take the land had witnessed the exact same thing that the 10 men who brought a negative report were exposed to. All the men had the same experience. All 12 men had witnessed and experienced the exact same thing. They'd been on the same journey, saw the same stuff, cut the grapes, brought them back, cluster, carried here, whatever they did. They all had the same experience, and yet 10 men were negative, and 2 men were positive, gung-ho. This is the land we've been promised. Let's take it. We can do it. Interesting. All the men had the same experience, yet some decided to trust, and others, the majority, decided not to trust. And it made all the difference to the future of this nation, didn't it? Instead of focusing on the promise, they encouraged the people to focus on the perils. And this is a perfect example of how a slight attitude difference does indeed make all the difference. A slight attitude difference does indeed make all the difference. So after this negative report, that was it. Israel was in a complete uproar, crying, weeping and wailing all night long. Then their voices rose up in a hateful chorus of protest against Moshe and Aaron. Oh, if only we had died in Egypt, or even here in this wretched wilderness. Why is Yahuwah taking us to this country, only to have us die in battle? Our wives and children will be captured and carried away as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to return to Egypt? Then they plotted amongst themselves. Screw this, it's time for a new leader so we can go back to Egypt. So they're furious, they're full on despair. They've had a big pity party, uproar, crying and weeping all night. Now they're turning on Moshe and Aaron. And of course, Moshe and Aaron, who have been experiencing Yahusha a lot more, they fell to the ground. They weren't falling to the ground in surrender and worship to these angry mob. They were falling to the ground to avoid the lightning strike, bolt of lightning. That joke that we see today when people move away in case there's a bolt of lightning next to the evil person next to you. Well, this is what they were doing. Moshe and Aaron fell face down on the ground before the whole community, and Yahusha, Joshua, and Caleb tore their clothes, saying to the people, "Listen, pipe down. The land we traveled through and explored is an amazing, wonderful place. And if Yahuwah is delighted and pleased with us, he'll bring us safely through and give it all to us. You should see it, guys. It's so rich and flowing with milk and honey. Don't rebel against Yahuwah or be afraid of the people of this land. They'll be the helpless ones. They'll be the helpless ones when they get a load of us. Don't be afraid of them." So don't be afraid of them. So this is Yahusha and Caleb trying to build them all up and encourage them. Stop going on like this, guys. They'll be the ones afraid of us if Yahusha's with us. After seeing the disgusting, disrespectful behaviour of the crowd, Moshe and Aaron hit the deck to avoid the lightning bolt they assume is coming from Yahusha. Then Yahusha, Joshua and Caleb, who had been mostly silent until now, they step up and start flexing their leadership muscles. Just a few weeks earlier, Israel had been established and given the marriage covenant and instructions for clean and successful living, and are now enjoying being in his presence and having daily intimate relationship with him. And they're about to throw it all away by making their external circumstances more important than the promises of Yahusha, and their fears and worries are overtaking them. Belief is everything. That's been testing and going on in me the last couple of days, because I had news that a couple of my children might be moving back to Sydney at the request of my ex-wife, and I've been in a furious state for a couple of days now. Like, all the things I've wanted to... I wrote her a letter, and I didn't send it. I just got it out and I wrote a big letter, and I just ripped her to shreds because of what she's done to her family and the children and everything. And All this means something to me because you can look at the same reality through negative glasses, or you can look at the same reality through positive. Positive is Yahusha, negative is unclean spirits. So you can look at the same reality, which hasn't changed. You know, nothing's changed, and as far as my situation, wouldn't be changing until next year anyway. But you can look at it through all this fury and anger, and then you start listening to demons. Oh, she's going to do this, and the kids are going to this and that, and this and that, and this and that, going down into the city and having, you know, all this stuff that's going on in you. And Yahusha says, like he said in the last episode, you just wait and see what I'm going to do when I move. Yeah? And look here, they'd had this amazing experience, and 10 of them were having a pity party, furious and angry. 2 of them believed the promise. What promise have you been told? What promise have I been told? A general promise is that he will look after us, he will protect us, he will go before us and behind us, protecting us, causing calamity and distressing anybody who tries to distress you. Anybody who tries to touch his anointed, which we are if we've been immersed in following his path of obedience through the portal, you know, we're anointed. Somebody tries to touch you, think horrible things about you, judge you, you know, lay a hand physically on you, you know, anything like that, he will whack him because you are his bride. The most treasured possession of his in the whole universe is his bride. So these are the promises we need to hold on to. There's also specific promises that are specific to you and specific to me. We've heard him say, do this, do that, it's a good path to be on. Buy this, do this, save your money, whatever. That's specifically personal to you. But generally, he promises to protect his bride. And so what wants to come against that? He promises to protect your children as well. If they're still young and living under your roof, he promises to protect them and look after them as well. So what wants to come against it all the time? The 10 wicked, evil testimony, the 10 evil reports. For every 2 good reports, there's 10 evil reports in your ear. 2 good ones and 10 evil ones. The demons have to work extra hard to make themselves heard. Yahusha doesn't have to work hard to make himself heard. He just says what he wants to say. And if you're tuned in, you'll hear it. He doesn't force himself on us, doesn't bully us, doesn't degrade us like they do. So I've had to come to the conclusion that it's best for me, instead of rising up in all this anger and hatred and running down my ex-wife and doing all that stuff that they want, and causing drama. Because if you start causing drama, particularly between divorced people, it can turn ugly and legal, and the legal system can get brought in and all sorts of things. So that's what they want, because who suffers in the end? Children. It's never a winner in any kind of court system. So I've had to calm down, just calm down, trust Yahusha. It's almost a year away. You don't know what's going to happen in a year. The coronavirus could go on for another year. You know, Yahusha could come back this year. You don't know. You just do not know. So there's no point stressing and worrying, because that's disobedient behavior. Do you know that? Stressing and worrying and thinking negative over your future is unclean spirits, and that's disobedience. That's not trusting Yahusha. And we're going to see what happens when the people get in on this feeling that I've gone through the last couple of days. We're going to see what the people did and how they were rewarded for their wicked behavior. So Israel is about to throw it all away, because they're making their external circumstances, what they can see, feel, taste, touch, their flesh, is more important than the promises of Yahusha. Supernatural provision and promises. That's what we have over us. Supernatural provision and promises if we're obedient. Belief is everything. This angry mob of Israel wasn't settled by Yahusha or Caleb, or this apparent suicide mission, and they went ballistic. So what's happening here? Musha and Aaron have hit the deck, scared because of what's about to come, because they know Yahusha and he's not going to put up with that. So Yahusha and Caleb, they're the younger guys that stand up and flexing their guns a bit. And, yeah, we can be leaders here. We'll settle them all down, Musha. Yeah, we'll do that for you, mate. So Yahusha and Caleb are trying to settle them all down, but this angry mob wasn't settled by Yahusha or Caleb, or this apparent suicide mission that they were going on about, and they went ballistic, threatening them with stones. They picked up stones and they were threatening Yahusha and Caleb with stones. But just as they were about to throw them, the esteem of Yahusha appeared to them in the tabernacle. What about this? How personal and spot on timing is this? It's like a real It's like a real person being there. It's like Yahusha's the creator, isn't it? It's like he's been there from the beginning and he knows all this. And obviously, he appeared as a flame of fire, obviously, and his esteem was a cloud and a fire and all that. He didn't just walk through on legs, but he's right there. Right when they're about to throw stones, boom. So, just as they were about to throw the stones, the esteem of Yahusha appeared to them in the tabernacle. Please, how long will these hideous people treat me with such contempt and scorn? Will they ever believe me and trust me? Even after all the miraculous signs I've done among them. I'm so over this. I'm done. I'll cut them off and destroy them with a plague, and I'll make you into a nation, Musha, one greater and mightier than they are. So he's ready to do it all again, just as he did at the golden calf. He's ready to wipe them all off the face of the earth and start again with Musha. Musha was his close mate. He was like face to face. I'd say up until now, Musha's the closest man to it. The man who had the closest relationship with Yahusha. So, and this is why. Did Musha really have to calm Yahusha down? Or was Yahusha bringing out the attributes he wanted in his leaders? Musha objected, so he's about to wipe them all out. Musha objected, if you wipe out your people today, the Egyptians will find out and it'll go viral. All the nations would have heard by now how you delivered your people from Egypt and the mighty power you displayed. They know that you live among us and appear to us face to face through your pillar of cloud that hovers by day and the fire by night. So if you wipe out all your people today with a single blow, the nations will laugh and mock, saying, this Yahuwah character went to all that trouble. This Yahuwah character went to all that trouble delivering his people, but gave up and couldn't even bring them into the land he promised, killing them in the wilderness instead. So please, my master, prove that your power is as great as you've claimed. For you said yourself that you're patient and kind, forgiving all kinds of disobedience and rebellion, but still punishing the wickedness and evil behaviours of the parents on their children to the 3rd and 4th generation. Remember that statement there, we're going to talk about that at the end. Punishing the wickedness and evil behaviours of the parents on their children to the 3rd and 4th generations. So please forgive the wickedness of your people here today in the great kindness of your favour, just as you have ever since we left Egypt. Just going through the rituals did not automatically bring about forgiveness. Performing the rituals is one step, but being forgiven by Yahusha is a whole different thing. Mere mechanical observance of a shadow ritual does not result in automatic forgiveness. So what does? Why are we talking about forgiveness? Because here, Musha says, you yourself said that you're patient and kind, forgiving all kinds of disobedience and rebellion, but still punishing the wickedness. He forgives, but he still punishes. Mere mechanical observance of a shadow ritual does not result in automatic forgiveness. So what does? Your heart had to be in the right place. There had to be an honest and sincere inner resolve in the heart of the person to stay away from it, to stay from the evil behaviour for which they were asking forgiveness. So there had to be honest and sincere inner resolve in the heart of the person to stay away from the evil behaviour for which they were asking forgiveness. It doesn't matter how much sacrifices or heaping ashes or wailing and screaming is done. If your conscience is not convicted and your heart is not in the right place, it really doesn't matter. Yahusha looks at the surrender of our hearts. Yahusha looks at the surrender of our hearts. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, about repentance and forgiveness and surrender. So Musha just pleaded for Yahusha to forgive them. So Yahusha says, fine, I'll forgive them as you've asked. But as surely as I live and as surely as the earth is filled with my esteem, not one of these people will enter my promised land. They've all seen my esteem and the miraculous signs I performed both in Egypt and in the wilderness. But again and again they've tested me, refusing to listen to my voice. So they will never ever see the land I swore to give their ancestors. Not one of those None of those who have treated me with such disgusting contempt will ever see it. But my servant Caleb is a different story, for he's got a different attitude than the others, trusting and following me passionately. So I'll bring him into the land that he explored, and his children will inherit it. Now, since the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living in the valley, tomorrow turn around and head back out into the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds. So he's basically told them, forget it, even though they're sitting on the border. No, you're not going there. That's where the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living, in the valley. So tomorrow, head back out into the wilderness. You're not going there. Done. Bugger off. Turn around and go back. Interesting thing here is that Yahusha was about to destroy them, he said, and Moshe apparently talked him away from it, changed his mind. Moshe had the power to sway Yahusha. Ever seen it like that? A few times he did it. Abraham tried to do it before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, but there wasn't enough clean, righteous people, I guess you should say. There wasn't enough people that are obedient, and so it didn't happen. But Moshe had the power to sway Yahusha. His chosen intercessors and or mediators, through their prayers, which is communication, on behalf of others, can curb divine retribution. Divine retribution. Who gets punished, who gets delivered, who wakes up, who doesn't. See, I've been saying a lot, we're not supposed to go out there and make things happen, but you can have people, you can make change through your communication, through the portal. This is something I haven't really thought about a lot, but his chosen intercessors and or mediators, through their prayers, prayers just communication. Let's not be all religious about it, it's just communication. Through your communication with Yahusha, for others, you can curb divine, you can change Yahusha's mind maybe. Ever thought of it like that? Communicating about for people? I'll pray for you, none of that religious stuff. You're just communicating, having a real relationship with Yahusha, talking about him. If something is stressing you or coming on you to try and distress you, you talk to Yahusha about it and you give it to him. It's not a weeping, wailing outward praying and I have to put it in my calendar. I've got to spend 25 minutes praying for you and then 10 minutes for you. No, it's just a real honest relationship. I'm furious because such and such is, oh, I wish they'd wake up and see you. You're talking to Yahusha. Real relationship. And it can curb divine retribution. This means that while we ourselves may not have the power to change anyone's minds or bring another's heart to repentance, all things in our lives are not necessarily set. All things in our lives are not necessarily set. Does it mean Yahusha already knows? Yes, he does. But we don't know. That's the point. We don't know. We aren't puppets whose strings are being pulled left and right by our Creator. In a true relationship, there must be give and take and meaningful, intimate communication through the open portal doorway within us. Otherwise, there ain't no relationship. We're not robots, not puppets on a string. There'll be a real give and take, backwards and forwards communication, open dialogue through the portal. That's what it's for, to have this relationship. Yes, we can influence Yahusha. How mind-boggling is it just thinking about that? And our intercessory prayer, which is just fancy talk for communication. So our communication on behalf of others do count. Do count. If you're anything like me, when I came out of religion, I just didn't want to know about any of that prayer and worship and dialogue anymore. Praying for people, and it's because it's all fake anyway. Most people aren't doing it, they're just saying it. I'll pray for you. I didn't want anything to do with all that. But now I can see that through this portal doorway, you can intercede for, but you can help people, even just in your thoughts, you give it to Yahusha. It's really what you're doing. Instead of wanting and pleading and wishing and wailing for people to see and wake up, you're simply giving them to Yahusha, presenting them to Yahusha and giving it to him, because he can handle it, you know? And then shutting your mouth and waiting and seeing if he's going to do anything about it. And if he does, he might use you, he might use someone else. But it's all about this interdimensional relationship you're having. So your intercessory communication on behalf of others do count. This great principle of intercessory mediation was how Yahusha behaved all the way up to his death. Always presenting others for the Father, always forgiving them. Even when he's hanging on the stake, Father, please forgive them. You know? They're idiots, they don't know what they're doing. Yahusha just said he'll fine, forgive them, it's fine, but there's no way in hell they're going into that land. No way. Turn around and bugger off. So he's about to have another rant now. Once again, Yahusha said to Moshe and Aaron, why am I putting up with this wicked deadhead community and their infesting complaints about me? Yes, I've heard the incessant bitching and whining that they hurl against me, so go and put this up 'em. As long as I live and remain the creator of this whole universe, by Joe, I'll do to you everything that you said would happen. I'll do to you everything that you said would happen in your pissy misery. You can all just go and drop dead in this giant sand bucket. You think you can spit and hiss in my face? You think you can spit and hiss against me, pig's ass? Go and get well and truly stuffed, the lot of yous. Yes, this is my colloquial Aussie version, and I like it. Go and drop dead in this giant sand bucket. You think you can spit and hiss against me, pig's ass? Go and get well and truly stuffed, the lot of yous. All of you older than 20, registered in the census last month, will cark it out here like a cactus. This was supposed to be a wonderful time, like that. They'll cark it out here like a cactus. This was supposed to be a wonderful time of celebration and homecoming, but you've all gone and crashed that party with your wet blankets of doom and gloom. You guys are as much fun as a bucket full of dead babies. No, I've made up my mind. You bastards aren't going anywhere near that land. Only Caleb, son of Yehunah, and Yahusha, son of Nun, will make it. This is how I think he would talk today. Just you know, he's one of us. Yahusha was one of us. He talked colloquially, hung with the common man. So if he was hanging out in Australia, I think he'd just be one of us. So you said your children would be captured and carried away as plunder. Well, guess what? I'm going to bring them safe and sound into my land, and they'll be sipping the milk and honey that all you delicate little flowers were too stubborn and stiff-necked to ever see. No, you will all drop dead in your unbelief and rejection, and all your kids will wander around like chooks without heads for 40 years, suffering for your evil, hoary behaviour, until the last of you lies dead in this wilderness. Until the last of you lies dead in this wilderness. Now I've got a great idea. Since your men explored the land for 40 days, you will all wander in the wilderness for 40 years, a year for a day, suffering all the consequences of your lawlessness. Then you'll truly know what it's like to have me as an enemy against you. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. And I will do all of this to every member of the community who has grumbled and mocked me. They will all be destroyed and will die right here in this wilderness. That's a rant and a half, wasn't it? He's hating on them. He's had enough. And he doesn't change. He has the right to. Look what they've done to him. Have we seen such, I mean, we see lots of things, but have we seen such supernatural signs and wonders in our life? Look how we treated Yahusha. Look how they were treating him. I've never seen water part and walk through it, and like plagues and plagues, death of the firstborn, all this stuff they'd seen, and they still couldn't, you know. And we can judge them and go, oh, that's just stupid. We wouldn't, yeah, we do it in other ways, don't we? Look how we've complained, bitched, whinged and complained all our lives. So the 10 men Moshe had sent to explore the land, who instigated the rebellion against Yahusha with their evil rumors, were struck dead with a plague by Yahusha. Only Yahusha and Caleb were left from the 10 spies. Only Yahusha and Caleb were left from the 10 spies. And when Moshe reported Yahusha's words to all the Israelites, the people were filled with overwhelming grief. And rising up early the next morning, a crowd of them went to the top of the hills. Let's go. We know we've been disobedient, but we're ready to enter the land Yahusha has promised us now. Stuff him, we're going anyway. We know where it is, we can see it from here. We're not turning around, we're going. Stuff you, Yahuwah. But Moshe said, are you going to stick it to Yahuwah again and defy him by not heading back into the wilderness? It won't work, guys. Don't try and enter the land now. You'll only be crushed by your enemies because Yahuwah isn't with you. And when you face off against the Amalekites and Canaanites in battle, you'll be slaughtered. When you face off against them all, you'll be slaughtered. Yahuwah will abandon you just as you've abandoned him day after day after day. But the people defiantly pushed ahead towards the hill country, even though Moshe and the Ark of the Blood Covenant witness stayed in the camp. And just as Musha said, the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in those hills came down, attacked and killed them, chasing the remaining ones back as far as Hormah. So they were chased away with their tail between their legs. They were slaughtered, a lot of them, just as Musha had said. Remember back up there I said to remember the statement about visiting the punishment and crookedness of the parents, visiting the punishment of the parents on future generations to the third and fourth generations. That's what is called, in scholarly circles, vertical retribution. Vertical retribution. Punishment inflicted, retribution of course is just punishment inflicted on someone as vengeance for a criminal act. So criminal punishment is retribution. Punishment. Vertical punishment or vertical retribution is the principle that the divine punishment due to somebody for disobedient behaviour against Yahusha can be postponed and carried over to the person's descendants. I didn't know any of this. You hear it, oh, they'll be punished to the third and fourth generations, and I just thought, oh yeah, well, it's punishing the whole family. All that, remember in the church, all those generational sins and all that stuff, and madness. But this is real, this is a scriptural principle. You could have punishment postponed and carried over to the person's descendants. Why you would want to take your punishment and put it onto your children is beyond me, but you could have it, if you repented, you could postpone it. And this postponement can actually extend over many generations. Along the same lines, this principle can also be applied to divine mercy and forgiveness. In this case, mercy due a person can be postponed and then given to that person's children or later generations. It's really like we're talking about a kind of spiritual bank account with credits and debits that can be transferred over from one person to another. Even though the punishment for the evil committed was forgiven or postponed, the guilt for committing that evil remained permanently until the debt was paid off in full. So it kept being fobbed off and passed on from generation to generation, but somebody had to pay it. It's a debt, someone had to pay it. Now let's say we come to the next generation who acknowledges and repents of the evils of their forefathers, but not wishing to be punished, also asks Yahusha for forgiveness. If they are sincere, Yahusha will also grant them forgiveness, and then the punishment will again be transferred onto the next generation. And it seems like this could literally go on forever. By the way, this is not Hebrew superstition, but a foundational pattern established and woven throughout all the scriptures, and it has everything to do with why we need a deliverer. Because when punishment is due somebody, because they've disobeyed Yahusha's instructions, that punishment must eventually be paid by someone. Can you see how the sacrifice of Yahusha comes into play here? He bore all the retribution that had accumulated over all the generations, past, present and future, from the beginning. All of the punishments that had been postponed and carried over from generation to generation finally came to a screeching halt. Yahusha's sacrifice forever put a stop to the principle of vertical retribution, and anybody who asks for forgiveness in his name, all divine punishment due to that person would be paid by him in full, and so it is today. And Yahusha heals the blind man. Remember when he healed the blind man, and his disciples said to him, is that because he must be blind because his parents were evil? His parents did, wicked behaviour. And Yahusha goes, no. This happened today so that the works of Yahusha could be made known. So A, we're not supposed to judge based on the sickness, and B, this is all about postponing the judgment generation to generation to generation. And Yahusha actually said that about the blind man, and then he healed him. So what does that say? He had the power through his name, through who he is, the living word made flesh. He just could zap people with healing. Wherever he went, demons would flee, people were healed, the blind could see, the deaf could hear, the lame, could walk. So let's look at this word collapse. We're going to finish on this, guys, because it ties in beautifully with what we've been talking about today. The whole idea of collapse. Because we've seen a lot of collapse happening in this episode, haven't we? The whole promise looks like it's in collapse as well. Collapse means physically or mentally to break, soar, contrite, crouch. Contrite, of course, is feeling or expressing remorse at the recognition that one has done wrong. Repentant, regret, sorry, ashamed. So we've been talking about that with the people of Israel. They were not repentant. They were not broken, they were not sorry, not ashamed, you know. And yet in Romans 14, as I live, says Yahuwah, every knee shall bow to me and every tongue confess to Yahuwah. That's what's going to happen. Of course, in the dictionary, collapse says of a structure suddenly fall down or give way. Roof collapsed on top of me. Similar, cave in, give way, crumble, disintegrate. There is a very good reason why Yahusha only opened the portal from his high dimension on top of the mountain and extended it out to its base. Any person or animal that went over the barrier would be snuffed out dead, like a mosquito being zapped. They say on top of the Mount Sinai is still black from the power of his presence. Right through the scriptures, which are a history of mankind's disobedience, whenever Yahusha opened a portal, it wasn't a huge area, and anything that came too close was instantly destroyed. This is why the tabernacle was set up with many coverings over it, so that the power of Yahusha's presence wouldn't destroy those who camped around it. So when Yahusha's presence left the temple of Jerusalem, the city was destroyed and the Yahudim was scattered throughout the nations, because as we know, incorrect mixed worship brings destruction. And he won't, and we won't have his presence. We won't have his presence for our protection and peace. The tabernacle of Musha was an incredible and amazing example of Yahuwah opening ℕ𝗏's eternal portal again to be with his people. We can never forget the image of the column of fire by night for warmth and the cloud during the day for shade. Everyone knew he was there, sitting on the throne of the ark, and through the high priest they could communicate with the Creator for the people. The same happened in the tent of David. The doors were opened and they could see his blue light on the ark. Yahuwah eventually took his presence from the temple and destroyed it, never to return. Yahusha came and said, your body is now the temple, and opened a portal in our hearts, giving us personal access to Messiah's guiding and most of all the fruits of his love. Then Yahusha came and opened a portal that no man can close. By following his instruction, we can have access to his presence through this portal. Then Yahusha comes into us through the Ruach, shows us how to overcome the evil of this world and cleanses us. We have been washed in his blood and our lawless behaviors are collapsed, destroyed. Washed in his blood and our lawless behaviors are collapsed and destroyed. He gives us a new heart to want to follow him. When you take a cardboard box and throw it on a fire, it eats away the structure from the inside to the outer parts until it crumbles into ashes. This is what will happen to the people and the earth when the scroll of Yahusha's high dimension and eternity is opened into time. What about this? When the scroll of Yahusha's higher eternity and dimension is opened into time, this earth is full of evil, and every single person and everything that evil has touched will collapse at the appearance of his presence. Time is limited. There are many scriptures stating that the universe will melt, the sun will go black, and the moon will turn red. All the islands, mountains, and tectonic plates of this earth will be shifted and burnt. It will be a very different earth after this for Yahusha's bride, Yisrael, to experience. The whole world will be different. It will be shifted and, At the moment, we are in the prophesied horrific birth pains era. There is much more devastation to come on this earth, setting the scene for his appearance. The bride will be protected during this time because she has a portal access. She has portal access. All evil will crumple up like the cardboard box on fire as the purity of timelessness breaks through from the ℕ𝗏. This is why Yahusha only opens small portals and gives us only a small down payment of his spirit, so that man would not be devastated and annihilated. The very last portal is described in Revelation 6 about what will happen to those on earth who have not entered the portal. Portalized people have his mark on their foreheads. Portalized people have his mark, his name on their foreheads. The sign and seal of the Shabbat and the mark of his name across their foreheads. And the messengers, angels, will gather them out of the most incredible catastrophe this world has ever known. They will be taken out of this horrible place. Once you get your mind around the fact that this is a complete possibility, it is much easier to see where Yahuwah opened many portals all through the history of Scripture. Can you see this? You see this revelation about the portal? This portal been happening all through Scripture. That was the marriage home. Garden of Eden was an interdimensional portal. They had open 𝗕𝗲𝗻, they could see the higher dimension. He loved his creation so much that he wanted to dwell with them, be with them. Do you think you would feel the same if you were the creator? Remember, this existence is all about his love for us and a longing for us to reciprocate. Isn't this phenomenal, guys? I mean, we can see that through behavior, we can be destroyed. Through behavior, we can make it. We can be accepted by Yahusha, just as they were in the wilderness. I mean, all these are tests and examples, signs and shadows and examples for us to learn how to behave today. How is our, we got to walk on the word, guys. We can't just learn all this stuff. There's been lots of writing today, sorry, but we can't just read all this and put it to memory. It's got to be real and activated within us. So that when something comes up, like I had the last couple of days, you've got to, and sometimes you stumble and it takes you a day or so to get your balance again. But the important thing is to get back up and keep going and trusting and believing and not spitting hate out of you. That's why I wrote stuff down and I'll just delete it now. I didn't send it. He wouldn't send the stuff that I wrote to her. You wouldn't send it to anybody. It was all true though. But it's important to face the truth and not judge and get on with it. Get on with the plan. Yahusha said, anybody who loves father, mother, sister, brother, children, anyone who places them higher than me, loves them more than me, is not worthy of me. Remember what he said to Aaron when his sons were snaffled up, frackled up in the tabernacle? You stay at your post. You get back to work. So that's what's happening to all of us in this chaos, whirlwind, cyclonic madness that's going on around us in this world. We all have things that Yahusha wants us to do. Get back to work, son. Get back to work, daughter, and do what I've asked you to do. Don't be whinging and whining and bitching and complaining and woe is me and look at my life and it's never going to be good. I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to achieve this. I'm never going to this. I'm never. Because that's the 10 spies listening to the demons. For every 2 upright, clean thoughts, there are 10 negative ones to run you down and crush you. Why? To stop, as far as I'm concerned, for me, it's to stop this word going forth, stop people from knowing the clear, fresh, beautiful word of Yahusha. Because so far, that's what I've been called to do in all this stuff, with the videos and everything. And ever since I started it, everything and everyone has been coming against me to stop me from doing it, you know? And I won't. Will not. And I hope you won't either. Keep going in what he's told you to do. Keep tarrying on. Yes, we all wish he'd come back tonight. Yeah, of course we will. He'll take us out of this wretched place. Kill us now, you know. Just like Musha said to Yahusha, if this is how I'm going to be treated, then kill me now. And Yahusha didn't entertain that. He just solved the problems. Gave him some helpers and fed them. But Yahusha is real, guys. He's 33 and a half years old. He's younger than most of us. So he understands what we went through. He was tempted and tested in every single way. Yet he always behaved the right way. He was always obedient to his father's words. And what were they? What we're going through now. The instructions, the foundational teachings. So it's Shabbat tonight, guys. Love you guys. Have a great